iRacing recently released an update for its Porsche Cup Car, so we're here at Virginia International Raceway to see if it's any better. So the reason I chose this track is because I think, well, first of all, I think it doesn't get enough love, and second of all, because I think it'll have a good mix of all sorts of corners to test this thing out. I do have to admit though, I have driven this new version already, so I know what to expect, but you know, let's get going. And let's see what it's like. First of all, when I drove this, the first thing I noticed is that it seems like the tyres take a lot longer to warm up. Usually 3 or 4 laps from some of my other testing. But on the flip side, I've also found that it is got a lot more rear grip. And that's good because that means it's much more predictable. And part of the magic of this car was that it wasn't predictable, and so you had to know how to manage it, how to make it predictable, but to be honest, I think that was just a pain in the ass. And now that it is controllable and you understand what it's doing, you know what it's going to do, it's just a lot better to drive. It's not necessarily easier, but it's a lot better. One thing worth mentioning though is that the brakes seem to be a lot more sensitive. Like past 60% or so, you run a very large risk of locking up. So using more than, say, 70% in a heavy braking zone is probably a terrible idea. Even when their brakes are warm, they still tend to catch a lot. Let's test it out through here. Let's try that again. Just ignore this part. Just edit this part out. So let's see what it does here. Okay, not bad. Of course, I wasn't pushing it very deep into that corner. Now, as for setup at the moment, I'm just running the basic iRacing Virginia setup. Nothing too crazy. Let's see, how about the first corner? Let's see how it does first corner. I'll pick it to 3. Oh, there you go, yeah. Yeah, jeez, yeah, the brakes really do not like to work. In the slow corners it's pretty good. It doesn't really feel like if you, you know, when you go on throttle, it doesn't feel like it's gonna spin around or anything like it used to. I think that's good. And now it sort of seems as though, well, the brake bias that everyone used to run definitely doesn't work, where it was about 41. So quite a heavy rear brake bias. But you know, obviously metas change when things are updated. So I don't think that's like a problem or anything. Let's try this first corner again. Let's try it through there. There you go. Bit easier. So it's definitely don't want to use as much pressure. There it was coming a bit loose. Let's see through here. A bit earlier on the throttle. And braking at the change in tarmac. It seems to be a bit pointier as well. Don't get me wrong, it will still understeer. But it just feels a bit more like a, well, you know, like a race car. The old Porsche, the Porsche pre-update, it felt more like if you tried to turn in without, I don't know, babying it or something, it would just not comply. Whereas this one, it definitely does. Look at that, that was not bad. This time here, by the way, I think this was from some point last year, maybe? I think so. Probably not a great benchmark. I don't even know if the car's faster after this update, but it's certainly a bit easier to handle. Let's see, full throttle through here. Oh, Jesus, yeah, okay. So yeah, it definitely does still like to come loose, but it does seem to be more predictable of when it is and when it isn't gonna go. Come on, let's try a fast lap here. I mean, you can see the tyres, they're still not even 1.8 bar, which is sort of the ideal pressure. Oh, and I've braked a bit too deep. Oh my god. It's definitely tricky to know when to brake in this car with that new braking model. But, you know, once we find the sort of meta brake bias, as I said before, I'm sure that'll all change. I'm still a bit cautious on the throttle, though. I don't quite trust it yet. I still think that you have to be careful. It just seems like it's a bit easier to understand. As you know, as I keep saying, it's just a bit easier to predict. You know, as I've said that so many times, but yeah, you know, it's easier. I could have done that a little better, I think. But you can sort of see that it's just all around has a bit more grip. It's a bit more planted. It feels like you're not driving a car that's going to spin out if you don't slow down way too much through every corner. And even there, like it's also a bit more savable. I think the sort of I don't know what it is. Like it's not. I'm trying to think of what it is. It's not slip angle, but you know, I don't know, the way the tire reacts to sliding. I guess it doesn't so much punish you. It leaves. It's a bit of a. Oh my Jesus Christ. Okay, that was unexpected. That wasn't even like half throttle. It still punishes you if you don't quite get it right. Just a little different. Yeah, I don't know if I like these brakes though. These don't feel quite right. They might be better with the correct bias. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I just don't like the brakes now. Before, it was a bit easier to understand. You could go up to about 90% before needing to worry about locking up as long as you were going in a straight line. But now, you can't even go past 60 in a straight line. It feels not, like it doesn't feel too bad though. It feels though that it is definitely improved, you know. I mean, as I say, it's just more grip all around. And yeah, I mean, you know, I just think that's kind of what this car needed. It needed to be something easily understandable but still tricky to master. And I think they've done a pretty good job of that. And you know, it actually now feels like a real race car. Whereas before it sort of felt like if a car handled like that in real life, it'd immediately be handed over to the engineers to try and figure out what the hell was wrong with it. There you go. It's all about, it seems to be at least, it's all about throttle to steering input ratio in those slower corners to try and avoid a spin. Come on, turn. Oh, not too much. Not too much. Ah, damn it. Stuffed it. Yeah. In the slower corners, it's probably still not quite as grippy as you'd want it to be, but I think that might just be a characteristic of this car, even in real life. Obviously, that's fine. I think what they've probably done is maybe just made it a bit more resistant to the sort of twisting of the chassis at some sort of lower speeds, I guess, to try and resist that urge to spin around and lose traction at the rear. I think what they've also done though, and this is probably why it's still a bit tricky in slow corners, is that they've probably increased the effect that the rear wing has a little bit. At least that's what I believe they've done. Feels like it. Feels like more in the higher speed corners where it's still, or where it's more planted than it was before. Yeah, as I say, it's still scary. It's just you can be under control, but still be right on the edge. That's what I think makes it a lot more fun. Is that with the other car, you just sort of had to be really boring and just go slower than you'd expect to through most of the corners. At least that's how I felt driving it. But with this one, you can stretch it out a bit and not have to worry about dying all the time. Well, you do, but you know, as I say, it's just easier. But it's not easier in a way where, you know, it's just a GT3 now. Like it's still got that old spirit it had, you know, before, where it's like a notoriously hard car to drive. I think it still is. It's just, it's in a really, really nice, or I don't know, like charming way, I guess. Because, you know, this time around, you don't just get frustrated when you spin. You're just sitting there like, yep, that was a bit too fast, or something like that. Whereas before, half the time, it's like, why did that happen? I just did that last lap. You know, it's just a lot more straightforward with what isn't past the limit. So yeah, that's the new Porsche Cup. If you were thinking about driving it before, but maybe you thought it was a bit too difficult, drive it now, because it's pretty fun. I have a feeling it's not going to last. They might make some changes here and there. So try it out for yourself now, and you know, see if you agree. Or if you're a veteran and you've driven this car before, but you've kind of not driven it much, you know, recently because it's difficult, well, give it a try now. I think it's a lot better. Anyway though, I've been Orlando Black, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye. Yeah, of course, after I end the video, I get that lap.